We're back. So we just finished off doing a skybox with a square, and we're COMP391, week 10, lesson 10, part 2, or a cube. But we're going to go back to doing a skybox with a sphere. So let's start off a new movie. So we're going to go File. I'm going to kill my my whole thing again. Now remember last time what we did is we had to kind of create seams for the skybox. You won't have to do it this time around, but we need to do some preparation work. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at what our texture is going to look like. So if I say sky dome, right, sky dome texture, right, now we get a different look altogether. Let's take a look at images for our texture. Here's our texture for a sky dome. So there's this one. That looks like a sky dome I want to use, right? 1024 by 1024. I want to make it a little bit nicer, a little bit better than that. So again, I want a sky dome like this. It's got to look like this now for the sky dome, right? This is quite small, like 280 by 280 is like horrendous, right? But that's the shape I want. I want a shape like this. I don't want a shape 332 by 332. I don't want a shape like we had before because that doesn't make any sense for us anymore. We're doing a sky dome. I think the biggest one is probably this. If you want to also change your more, if I go to more, or sorry, search tools, sorry, if I go to size, and I want a large size object, then these are just larger sizes that I can get. It looks like 1024 is probably the biggest one I can get with sky domes. See if they have another size. So large, how about I go to larger than 2 megapixels. See if they have any of those. None that are usable that I can see. Well, that's not bad. That's 2048 by 1536. My problem with this is that the rest of it is going to be dark, and you're only going to see the sky dome like this. We can try and use that too. Now, if I go back to the other ones, just to show you the other ones, the other options. So if I go back to large, then you see the black. There's also black around here too. See black around the edges, and then you have a very white edge here with a sky here. I'm going to pick this one on the right here. So I've gone to sky dome texture. Just for you guys to follow along, I've chosen search tools and I've clicked large, so larger textures, 1024, 1024, still quite small, I'll be honest with you. Not quite happy with this. I'm going to go to here and I'm going to right click onto this and then save link as, or sorry, save image as, and we're going to call this sky dome. Sky dome, right? And then save my downloads. Okay, so I've got my sky dome. But remember, this is the geometry that I want to match, right? Before, when we did it, we did a cube, right? This isn't a cube, this is a dome. So how do I do that? I got to create a dome in Blender, that's how. So I got to kill my cube. I'm in Blender now, and I'm going to kill my cube. So let's go X for the cube, delete. And I'm in here, I want to add in, Shift A, I want to add in a mesh UV sphere. Let's go to UV sphere. And I want to be very careful about how I make this. So see where it says rings and segments? I want to increase my segment size, or my ring size, to 32 as well. So I want to kind of make my rings and my segments the same amount. Okay, so I've got 32 and 32. My size is 1. Right? My location is 0. All this stuff is all 0. Okay, cool. Now what I want to do is I want to go into front mode, front perspective mode, front ortho mode, and zoom in so I see my sphere. Just like we did kind of in our first, remember our first tutorials when we used a sphere to kind of model with? One of our first tutorials we did spheres. We want to take this sphere and cut it in half on the bottom. Right? And I want to go into a wireframe mode to do that and deselect all. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the B select mode and select the bottom part of my sphere. Right, let's just try that again. How about we do that in edit mode this time? Take the bottom part of my sphere and kill it. So this part of my sphere, and press X, and then I want to get rid of all the vertices. So I got this. This is what my object is. Now here's a problem that I have, right? If you look at my top of my object here, it's kind of a point, which is kind of weird. Right? That might promote some issues later on. We're going to see this issue, right? And the reason why I'm saying this up here, take a look. That means when because there's a bunch of rings and segments, right? it's going to make it kind of weird up here because it's going to make it so that the image kind of wraps in here weirdly. So some of the ways that we've seen it done is we take this point here, and then what we do is we kill it, right? Like one of those, and kill the vertices there, right? That's what I've seen. And then we press Option, right click, or sorry, in your case it's Alt right click, right? And what I have is this kind of area here. Sometimes what I've seen is you extrude, press Enter, and then extrude, and then kind of bring your points, sorry, escape. Then press undo that. Press Scale and move into the center, right? This is a different thing than we did before, right? And what I want to do is bring it as close to center as possible. There's a bit of a hole there, right? All these points. And then what we want to do, if we go here to the side where it says merge, so you remove, it says merge, and we say merge as center, then we create a center point. This is a different thing than connecting all those points we had before, right? This looks the same, but it actually does a different thing. All right, let's look at solid mode for a second and see what it looks like. This is what our sphere looks like, our dome looks like right now. It looks like this. And this is the geometry we have, right? Well, we want to do a couple things. One, we definitely want to smooth this thing up. So I'm going to press, go back into object mode, right, as an example. And I want to smooth this whole thing so it looks smooth, so it looks like this. So in object mode, right? And just to prepare for what we're going to do, we definitely want to make our sphere or our dome, we want to make so that the normals are flipped again, because otherwise we won't see the normals inside. So might as well prepare that by going to Tab, into Edit Mode, select all, right? Go into Mesh, and going into Normals, Flip Normals. And what that'll do is it'll flip it so that the normal's on the inside, not on the outside. If I use backface culling, you'd see nothing on the outside now, right? So if I go to N, and if I go to Blender Game, I need to do these two. Change my shading. So I go into for multi-textured GLSL. And if I click backface culling, everything's going to be transparent now, except for the stuff that's on the inside. So if you notice if I go to solid mode now, I'm in solid mode. And if I'm in, if I got backface culling on, if I press P for play, I'm going to see, well, first of all, solid mode is wrong. If I go to material, right, then I'm going to see like literally some weird thing like this, because backface culling takes away the material that I can't see, right? It's just kind of weird. Let's take backface culling off, because that's just weird. We're not used to seeing that. Okay, this is what my sphere looks like, or my object. This is good. So we got our object. We did this last time. We're not seaming anything. We're not going to put any seams in the sky, all right, this time around. Okay, good. Let's switch views from our default view or perspective. Let's go into our UV editing mode. There's our object. Let's make sure we turn up our material so we can see what the material looks like. And remember, we only have a default material. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do that. Let's go back to default for a second. And go back to material mode. Let's take away this and go back to material mode and basically make sure we have a material, which we do not. Let's add a new material. And we have a default material. We're going to call this sky again. Here's our sky. And we're going to make sure that the material is shadeless, because it has to be shadeless again. It can't be receiving shade or anything else. And that's bright white like this because we don't have a texture. Just to prepare, let's prepare a texture. We'll click New for a new texture, right? And we'll leave it as image and movie, but we won't select any image or movie. We'll just leave it as a new texture. So we have a texture. It's called, we'll call this sky. The texture is also called sky. But we're not going to do anything. It's UV mode, but we're not going to project anything on there because we don't have an image yet. Let's go back now to UV editing mode. Okay, so there's our UV editing mode. I've got full texture going on here. Let's toggle off this piece here, and we can actually toggle off this piece here, this end mode. So we've got this and this. That's all you should see. I've just toggled off all my my sidebars. Okay, on the bottom left, on the bottom here, I have new and open. I'm going to click open. I'm going to select where I've put my downloads, and I'm going to get my Sky Dome and press Open Image. There's my Sky Dome, yeah? Okay, I'm in object mode on my right. I got to go into edit mode, and now I'm going to do a UV unwrap. If I do a regular unwrap, this is what I get. That's pretty darn good, right? All I've done is gone in here and unwrap, right? Now, the reason why I'm not seeing anything in here because my normals are flipped. So it's inside, not outside. And that's how you should see it. You should see this Sky Dome with the normals that are flipped like this. Okay, I don't have to do, I could probably do an adjustment on the ground, but let's not, right? I don't have a ground at all. I haven't selected my Sky Dome doesn't have like a face in the bottom. I could add that in, but I don't want to, right? Let's go back into default mode for a second, default mode. And if you notice now, right, for image, I can choose my Sky Dome. There's my Sky Dome, right? And this is under my texture. And I want to choose UV map, right, just to make sure. So if now my Sky Dome is the one I'm going to see. Here it is, right? And I'm going to kind of go into my Sky Dome, right? Now, obviously in perspective mode, I'm going to look at, now this is what it looks like. Right? Same idea as the Skybox, right? I'm inside my Sky Dome. Let's just make this a little smaller for you guys to see. Same idea as my Skybox, but the difference is that it's a dome. Let's go into what it looks like. Now look how crappy it is. This is like the worst I could have possibly downloaded, right? And I told you, this is why it's really super important to get a high resolution dome, right? Or else you're going to get this crap. See? So outside, there's outside, and here's inside. If I press play, I still see it because my normals are flipped on the inside. So all the same rules apply to the Sky Dome as they do for a Skybox. The thing is, Sky Dome, I could have shown you this, but it's way easier, right? I always want to show you the harder part first, and then do the Skybox or the Sky Dome. The reason why people they use multiple different things. The reason why they want to use a Sky Dome over a Skybox is because it's a dome. It actually looks, circular and so on. It gives you the illusion of having a horizon that's round and all this kind of stuff. I still would want to make this really big. And the other thing is I don't have any kind of, I don't have this is really small right now. If I want to make, look, this is the actual size of my sphere, right? My circle. This is pretty small, right? So if I want to make this realistic, I'm going to scale this way up. So it's going to be like huge, massive, right? So now it's like the size of let's go to the top view to show you what I'm talking about here. And if I go into Z mode, so see, this is not that big still. You see, it looks big, but look, my camera size is still pretty small. So if I want to make this even bigger, I'm going to scale this up. So I'm going to go to scale. Let's scale it up even more. So it's massive. Right. So now you see that I'm just looking at it from a wireframe perspective, so you can see what I'm talking about here. Right. There's my wireframes. Right now, it's going to look even uglier. Right. And let's go back into material mode, so I can see what I'm talking about here. Now it's a little better, because you can't see this pixelation as much, like when I go back into my thing, but as you can see on the edges, it looks messed up, right? Because the edges are so scattered, it's warped around the edges, and the actual image that we got was really poor. Okay, now that we got our mapping, great thing is we can find another box, or another Sky Dome. So this is our first Sky Dome, and this again is 1024 by 1024, right? If I want to go back out, and I want to get a larger than 2 megapixel Sky Dome, or larger than whatever I want. Let's say I want to find another one. See if I can find a Sky Dome that's a little bigger. And I see I found something like this that's much bigger. So this is 3840 by 3840, right? I remember that I'm going to ignore this part anyway. This part here, it's not going to be in our texture anyway, this part. So it doesn't matter what's on the outskirts. It just matters what's in the middle, like this. I want a circular Sky Dome like that makes sense to us, right? Because when we have a Sky Dome, here's one that's 2048 by 2048. That's not bad. Galleryhip.com. I kind of scroll down a little bit to get that. So there's our Sky Dome. That's going to make it look really weird. Let's choose this one now. And there's other ones we can choose here, but I want to choose this one. So I'm going to right click, save my image as, and I'm going to call this high res dome, JPEG. So I'm just choosing this one. You can choose one that makes sense for you. Now I'm going to go back into UV editing mode, right, and swap out the image. So here's my image, and I'm going to swap out. I'm going to load up another image here. I go into high res dome and open my image up. Let's scroll out, as you can see. Here's my high res dome. If I go back into my default mode, right, and open this up, right now I'm looking at Sky Dome. I want to open up another one, so I'm going to click this button under Image. I'm going to open up high res mode, high res dome, press open. Right? Now I want you to look at the difference. Right? And one other thing I should mention to you as well, see the source? Always remember, if you want your materials to come with your object, for saving, you click this option so it embeds your materials and your object together. Okay, now let's take a look. So I'll bring this back over. So I've just changed the source of my object so it wraps differently. Let's take a look at that. That's much better. That's like way better. Right? So my Sky Dome looks bigger. There seems to be some kind of edging here going on. I could probably fix this up because it looks like, see how there's like a patterning here? This is because the way my my grid is wrapping, right? What could I do to make this even better? I could add a subdivision surface modifier, right, to kind of round off my object even more, to add, or I could subdivide it even more times. Like right now my subdivision is quite small, right? To show you what I'm talking about, I'm going to go back into UV editing mode, right? And again, I've got my object selected here. My object, we're in object mode, right? I'm going to go into edit mode. And if you notice, this is what it looks like right now. There's not that many divisions, right? And right now I've got my Sky Dome picture up. I don't want my Sky Dome, I want my high res dome to show you the difference. Here's what my high res dome looks like. You can see that I can actually make this a little bit smaller. See this white area here? If I don't want to include my white area, I don't want to make this smaller, I could literally just shrink this in a little bit. Just do a scaling so it scales in so I don't see my white anymore. So that kind of hides part of it. Now if I want to subdivide this thing up, right, as an example, I want to make more of these divisions, right? I'm going to have to do that in regular editing mode, right? So I'll go here, and I want to subdivide this more. Now be careful when you do this because this messes you up. Watch if I subdivide more. So I get more precision, right? So it gets less. This is one subdivision. I cut it once. Let's cut one more time. Let's actually add the number of cuts to 2. Okay, this is great because my grids increase, but now my Sky Dome is more complex. Be very, very careful. This is a high poly Sky Dome, which will slow down your entire game if it's very big. Right? Now, the great thing, though, is if I go back out to default mode, and if I go back into object mode, look how beautiful it is now. It's nice and smooth. Oh, there's a bit of issues here. I could probably have scaled in a little bit more. Look at this, right in here. But the sky looks like a sky, man. Right? Much easier to do. Really hard to get a really good image though, as we saw. But the great thing is that you've got a sky. The ground, obviously, you're gonna have to do a whole thing on the whole treatment on the ground. And again, for you to make it realistic, I'm just gonna pull up so you can see what I'm talking about here. This is some way up in the sky now, right? I'm gonna go Shift A and go into a plane, and I'm gonna go scale that plane up so that it's outside of my dome, right? And then what I'm going to do is, if you notice also my point lamp needs to be adjusted. So I'm going to kind of click my point. We'll do the same tricks that I did before. Here's my lamp. I want to click that on. And from user perspective mode, this is user ortho mode. I'm just going to pull out here. Right? We got to find where my sun is. Right? Now my sun in this particular version is way over here. Look, it's like almost like kind of on the horizon. This is where my sun is. So this is where my light source should be for proper shadowing. So I'm going to kind of move my light source to the right. I'm going to go to the, kind of look at it to the right, from the right side. There it is. Move that up a little bit. That's where my sun looks like to be. And then from the top, my sun lamp should be just inside my dome, right? And as I move in there now, you see that there's the proper lighting. Take a look. Look at the lighting now. Now it's not very good, but I get that the shadows look more realistic, right? If I go back into my lamp, my energy level is pretty low. I can increase my length, let's say to 100, so it's much brighter. It covers more distance. I might need even more than that. Let's go to 200. Here's my distance of 200. So there I've got my lamp. And I got my energy is really low. Let's up this energy to like 2. Right, so it looks like sun on the horizon kind of thing. Look. Right, a little bit more realistic, wouldn't you say? So I've got my scene. I'm setting my scene up here, right, for this. And then, of course, my ground has no material. So let's go and add a new material. I can turn off some of that specularity, so it's a little bit lower. I can change my ground so that it's darker, like maybe a dark brown. Just make it more. If I really want to make it realistic, I can choose let's say I want to make a grass texture. Let's get a texture. Just cuts, so to finish it off, right? So we'll make some grass, right? Almost like a field of grass, right? This is good too because it gives us the idea of doing that. I'll go to cgtextures.com, cgtextures.com, and in my CG, in this one here, I'm going to grab some kind of grass landscape or something like that. If you look, it says decals, landscape, rock, plastic, paper, ornaments, nature. So let's go to nature. And there might be some for grass. Here's grass. Right now there's different kinds of grass I can choose from, like sparse grass or whatever. Grass with rocks, whatever I want. So let's grab one of the ones that makes sense, like this one. This one's what I want right here. That's what I want it to look like. Take a look. Right? I want it to be huge, which means this large 3000 by 2000 image, 2.9. And I'm going to save this grass image to my hard drive. So it's going to say to downloads. We'll call this just grass.jpg. There it is. So I've chosen this one. I've kind of gone down a couple ways and chosen a grass image. You can choose one for yourself. All right, cool. Let's get back into Blender. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into, I've kind of selected this one right here. I'm going to add a new material, which we're going to call grass. By the way, might as well name this my plane to ground. Right, and when I go to texture, that's my ground texture. My material. So there's my grass. I want to kind of load up an image or movie, so I'm going to load up the grass this time. So here's my downloads. I can do this kind of conventionally. Where my grass is, there it is. Press OK. Open it up. And if I don't want, I mean, right now I have color and so on, and I can go. I haven't unwrapped it yet. To do this properly, I have to unwrap it. So I'm going to go into UV editor mode. Let's go back to UV editing mode. And I've got my my ground selected, but now I've got the wrong texture up here to look at. So I want to change this texture to the grass texture. So there's my grass. That's the one I want it to look like. And I want to go into edit mode, right? And I want to press unwrap, and then UV unwrap for this. There's my grass. But that is doesn't look right. Take a look. It kind of looks like this. Like a jungle. It looks like a jungle now, right? That's not right. I want to make it so it's really, really small. So I want to kind of stretch my grass so that it's like way smaller. Now it's going to look like it's going to be squares because they're tiled, right? That's okay. For the most part, I probably won't notice it if I'm on the ground. So I'm going to really massive. This is where I'm in right now. And this is what the grass will look like. The grass doesn't look like grass. It looks like an image of grass, right? If I want to make grass, what I might want to do is create particles and hair particles. But we're not going to go there today. That's going to be another lesson. All right, okay, cool. So I've got that. It's unwrapped. Let's go back into my regular default view. And I'm going to go into my regular mode. Now, I shouldn't have specularity. Grass shouldn't shine, right? So I'm going to go back here to turn my specularity right down. And on my grass itself, right, on the grass, you notice I have a bit of color. If I want to add some geometry, like a normal geometry, I can add it so it looks like a grassy ground. I think it's a little bit too harsh. Take a look now what it looks like, guys. All right, so there's my grass, my ground. Right. Now, for the most part, if you're at this level, you probably won't notice, you know, that it's blending in. The more normal I make it, the more I'm getting this kind of specularity. I can add specular a little bit, but turn it right down, like so that it's not a specular. Can't make it negative specular. A little bit of specular. So there's a little bit of shadowing going on, and this is what my grass looks like. And this is, if I was walking along the ground, this is my scene. So let's change just to make the scene, let's change my view, my perspective. So view, I'm going to cameras, align view. I'm going to align my active camera to view. So Control Alt Numpad, and I'm going to pull this out. So I'm going to go to N, and I'm going to go to lock camera to view. I'm going to kind of pull it up a little bit so I can see what my camera view is going to look like, and pull it back. Pull it up, back a little bit. And I'm going to unlock my camera a little bit here and just increase my view. That's what it looks like. And this is what my scene would look like from here, right? This is my, if I press 0 from my camera view and press play, now this is what my game would look like. So not a bad little view. And it looks pretty good in terms of like how the game would play out, because I would start off from here and I would literally like slide across my ground as a player or run across my ground. But you'd see, if I went to the sky view, you see that there's a pattern on the ground. Take a look. There is kind of a pattern of the ground, like my grass pattern, because it's a tile. Not bad. Right. So again, just to recap, we did two things today. In the first movie, we did a skybox that was a box, right? So we did a cube, much longer, took a lot of time. Although I wanted to show you how to unwrap things and a little bit more of texture unwrapping. We want to talk about and how to kind of mark seams. That was kind of a really important piece to that one. And the second piece after we did that one was this sky dome and how to add the sky dome in there and how to do stuff with that. Next day, which will be the Friday, we'll get together and we'll talk about, I want to make a full, kind of more full of a 2D game. I want to talk about that, how to make a 2D game. Almost like if we can make a Mario clone, that would be great. If we can kind of come up with a small Mario clone on Friday, right? Okay. Any questions around this stuff? Again, just more techniques for your final project, or the project that you're making right now for your next assignment. Okay.
What were the reasons to use a skybox over a sky dome?
Skybox, some people prefer skyboxes because it's more geometric, right? Okay. And you have more, you can make it appear that there's more space in the box, right? A sky dome, you're limited. Literally, as you get towards the edges, the warping happens a lot crazier. Like you have to make the sky dome really big. Actually, both objects really, really big for it to be effective. A lot of people use sky boxes over domes in video games, especially when it comes to first person. And occasionally, if you look at some Blender tutorials as well, they use the world as a skybox. They use a skybox almost like a panoramic view in the world, and you sit there in the middle. That's another way of doing it. Right? There's some other. There's a future. This is like way number 2. There's actually a third way to do it, with a panoramic view that's added to the back of your world. So there is no box, there is no shape. It's forever. It takes up the entire world. The problem with that is it never seems that the clouds get closer or anything like that. They're just like always far away. This way the clouds actually will physically get closer, so it makes it more realistic, like you're moving like around the ground. Right?
I assume there's a way for me to make like the clouds move and stuff.
You can add your own clouds.
Yeah.
Like you could add your own clouds as objects, right? And then what the object would look like was it'd be like it'd be a plane, right? So the cloud would be a plane, at a particular angle to your player, right? And then as you look up into the sky, you see a plane that kind of moves, but it has transparency in the background. So the transparent background, you see through it, so it looks like it's a cloud, but it's actually just a plane.
Sounds very CPU intensive.
Not really, actually. Yeah, it's really kind of cool. Okay, that's it for us for today.